thoughts on the series so far with Carolina and how they've come to be knotted up?
So I think the biggest thing is it's surprising how well the Rangers are keeping pace with the Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes are trying to play their game, and I think that they have another level that maybe New York can't keep up with. But so far, the fact that they're managing to keep pace as well as they are and protecting the quality areas of the ice through at least games 1, 2, and 4, minus some shortcomings, to complete the 60 minutes. They still have to work on that. But I think that's the biggest part of it so far. And goaltending, obviously, they have to back them up.
Yeah, I mean, the goaltending, there was the little blip in the first round there, but I think this was the guy we kind of all expected to see. We were talking a little bit about the Hurricanes and that they've yet to win a game on the road in the playoffs. And, for me, the first place my mind goes to with that is matchups. Is there something the Rangers are gaining matchup-wise by being at home and having last change? Like, is there a line that they're able really to roll out against top competition, or is it a D pair they trust more than others? Like, do you think it's something with matchups that are leading the Hurricanes to struggle so much against the Rangers in this round? Or at least on the road, I should say.
Yeah, my brain goes exactly to the same place. You would think it's matchup-based. And for the Rangers, they don't have as many options up front to match up against their opponents. They have two good scoring lines, but their shutdown line usually falls on Mika Zibanejad's line. He's the player they trust to handle it, and rightfully so. And in round 1, we really saw that crush him against Sidney Crosby's line. So in this series, it's interesting. When it was in Carolina, they had Jordan Staal against Mika Zibanejad's line. And then the Aho line could take on Panarin, and Jacob Slavin could be paired up against Panarin as well. And that line hasn't been clicking as well. So being able to shut down the Zibanejad line is a huge advantage for Carolina. And now that it's back in New York, Zibanejad last night, he played a lot against Aho's line instead of being shut down by the Staal line. And that's definitely helping them play to their strengths too. The other thing is for defense pairs, Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren are the two that generally play against top competition. And when they lost Lindgren in round 1, that completely hurt their matchup game because their options were Fox and Justin Braun, an imbalanced pairing, Patrick Nemeth and Braden Schneider, a pair they definitely don't trust in those situations. So it fell on K'Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba, who can handle some tougher minutes, but I think that was out of their depths going against Jake Gensel, Brian Rust, and Sidney Crosby. So now that they're healthier, I think that's going to help them, have two defense pairs they can rely on a lot more. So they can pair Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren up against whoever they want and not be struggling as much as they were.
Yeah, Shayna goes more into this too. We got an article up right now on Sportsnet, New York holding pace better than expected. A good read on where the series is at. And I also forgot to mention that you were the co-host of Too Many Men, which you guys just got picked up by the Le Batard Network. Is that right?
Yeah, we were doing it on our own, but now we're teamed up with them, so we're doing it a lot more frequently.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. It's a fantastic podcast, and we're pleased to have you today. I wanted to get a little bit more on the animosity in this series and your thoughts on how much that has played into things. You see, like Gallant's going at D'Angelo on the other side. Like there's a lot of intensity in this series. It feels like that's shifted sort of the shape of the play, has it not?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think the thing was that game 3, they could have just let things settle at the end. That was that. But it did carry over into game 4. And the Rangers let it roll off them better than I think the Hurricanes did. And you saw that at the end of the game, too, come to fruition, or even the hit on Domi. The Rangers don't, as physical as they are, and they have up there hitting, and they can seem like this super tough opponent, it's not like they're racking up fights all the time or anything like that. So if they can play to their strengths and get in their opponent's heads, but then not necessarily act on it unless they need to, that's, for the better. If they were to have done anything, it would have looked premeditated or anything like that. And I know some pointed to the Trouba hit, which I don't think was the case. I don't think that was a premeditated hit on Domi or anything like that. But it's interesting. Like Ryan Reeves, if you take him off the ice for 5 minutes, that really doesn't hurt the Rangers. If the Hurricanes lose Tony DeAngelo, it does. So it's all about managing that. And that's something that I think he still needs to work on. You saw a lot the last round. Brad Marchand is one of the best at knowing how to get players off their game by being a pest, and he knows how to do that. And he was able to get D'Angelo off of his game completely in one of those games in Boston. So if the Rangers do that, it only helps them. But, it's definitely on both teams to make sure they hone that as much as possible and know how to channel it the right way.
No, definitely. And man, you look at the way the Rangers are handling all this now, and it's, for me at least, it's impossible not to go back to the end of the season, 2 years ago with Wilson and Panarin, and they felt it was clearly something they had to address. And it's as easy to point at Ryan Reeves and say, there, we addressed it, but it can't just come from him, and I don't think it has. And, I'm not talking about this player in terms of him being, really fighting or being nasty, but I think it's a guy who's been super engaged, and it's Alexis Lafreniere. This is a guy who, number one overall pick. We think he's going to have this amazing hot jump start to his NHL career, and it just doesn't really happen for him. But he, to me, feels like the poster boy of somebody that it is amazing how much a player can be changed by having just a little bit of team success early in their career and getting deeper into the playoffs. Like, it feels like Lafreniere is having this other side almost pulled out of him by just being in the playoffs this long and winning around. And it feels to me like it's just kind of proof positive of why it's so important for young players to experience, of course, personal success, but team success early in their career.
Yeah, so two things there. With the incident with Wilson, I think it's so tough because I do think the Rangers were overreactionary in how they tried to get tougher. And it's more about having bite throughout your lineup and knowing how to be tough to play against. And I think the tough thing with that situation, too, was it was on the power play. Ryan Lindgren was out of the lineup and Jacob Trouba was. And if I remember correctly, so was Chris Kreider. So they're players that you would expect to be able to go toe-to-toe a little bit more. Whether it's fighting or just being physical throughout the rest of the game, they weren't there. But with Lafreniere, he does have a little bit of bite to his game, which I'm sure is something Gerard Gallant likes. It seems to be something he likes seeing his players. But overall, this was a player that his usage has been really tricky. He got third-line minutes last year and minimal power play time. So it wasn't entirely surprising that he didn't break out when he didn't have, in your rookie season, you hope to have quality teammates around a player that's so important to elevate their game. And this year, there was a big difference when he did play with Kreider and Zibanejad, and he did play on the right, which is his offside. So he made progress and then did bounce back to the third line and still had, little to no power play time. So I think that would have gotten him a little bit more confidence. But in the second half of the year, when they were more willing to put him back with Kreider and Zibanejad, I think that benefited his game a ton. He had a lot more confidence going into the postseason. And now, the kid line, as they call it, like, they're clicking and they're getting these scoring opportunities. So that's so helpful for their development. They're getting this experience now.